afternoon, everyone. It is great to be here today. Great to be standing on this project because this project represents everything that we need to be doing in the state. You know, since I became governor, I have made building housing job one. It is our top priority because housing is just too expensive around the state. We know it's especially tough here on the Vineyard where there's a scarcity of housing, especially housing for folks who are working, living and working on this great island. And so I'm just thrilled to be here today alongside Martha's Vineyard Hospital President Denise Shapici and her team, who had the foresight and worked really hard to see this vision through. I am delighted to be joined by my colleagues in government, Senator Julian Cyr and Representative Thomas Moakley. As I say, housing is like the number one thing we need to be doing as a state. It's people can't afford a place to live. Houses are too expensive, rents are too high, and it's because we have a lack of supply. We just haven't been building enough housing. When I became governor, we did an inventory. It's the first time a governor's done an inventory of how much we actually need for housing around the state. It turned out we needed a ton of housing, 220,000 housing units, and so that we were short 220,000 units. And so I directed the team to put together legislation that would bring more housing online as quickly as possible. And that's why we were able to pass the $5 billion Affordable Homes Act. Thank you to my colleagues in the legislature for your work on that. It did a number of things, including ADUs by right, a lot of incentives for developers and credits and the like. But we're here today to talk about, what's happening with the hospital, and I just think it's really, really something. Of course, Martha's Vineyard Hospital is the largest employer on the island and a critical healthcare provider. And in so many places, as here, we're seeing housing costs as the greatest financial challenge that employers like the hospital are facing. It affects their ability to recruit and retain a workforce. And that is bad because if we don't have a workforce in our hospitals, we don't have health care. If we don't have health care, we don't have a safe community and a safe island. So the steps taken are really impressive. This development, it's going to be 48 homes for hospital and nursing home employees. It uses innovative construction strategies. These are modular units that were constructed in Pennsylvania and then brought up on freight and delivered to the island, and and here they are. It is really, really something. It represents a really strong partnership between a private employer, local government, and private supporters as well. And it also includes with it an ability to protect and preserve important land for conservation, which we know is very important to the island. I also am excited about the innovative nursing home. This isn't an ordinary nursing home. It's a very interesting nursing home that's taking place next door. So to me, this is exactly what we need to be doing. As I say, we passed last year a $5.2 billion Affordable Homes Act to increase housing production around the state. More housing supply, costs are going to go down, rents are going to go down. We also changed a few things through law. We came up with a seasonal communities designation, and now under the law, a seasonal community like the Vineyard has new tools to prioritize year-round residents and workforce needs. We also recently announced a state land for homes initiative. Basically what I directed the team to do is to identify all the surplus state-owned land around the state and identify parcels that we could make available right now for housing development. We announced that last week. We held a fair, so to speak, for developers to come and look at these parcels of land. Some of them are abandoned hospital sites or abandoned courthouse sites, transportation property that isn't being used right now. We want to get these we want to get this land developed as quickly as possible with new housing. 450 acres in all we put up just last week. One of these sites is a 1.5 acre lot on Eastville Ave in OB. It's a small parcel, not as big as some of the others, but it's an example of how we're not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to looking for available spots for development.
Now, my hospital staff The average salary, the median salary is about $80,000, which is higher than the Dukes County average salary, which is $66,000. My staff don't qualify for affordable housing, okay? So they have to pay market rates. And that's what really sparked us to think about how we can support our staff. We almost coined the phrase that we've had and been saying, no housing, no health care. So when we started to look at building on this site, and with the help of Mass General Brigham, our parent organization, they said, we will cash flow this project's needs, but you're going to raise the money. You've got to raise the money. And I went out to the donor base, and I will tell you, we have raised almost $30 million. That was our goal. We're $600,000 short of that. Anybody out there? And
That's amazing. That's a lot of money.
And wait, here's the thing. 80 donors gave us about almost 90% of that. So this was a leadership campaign of 100,000 or more, because people just understood the importance of their community hospital. And these were a lot of not our year-round residents, but our co-residents that are, sometimes in Florida or sometimes in New York. But they just said, Denise, we need this hospital. We need this hospital to survive. And, okay. They realized they weren't just given to housing. They were giving to the hospital. And it was an easier sell that way. So I'm extremely grateful to them. I'm extremely grateful to Columbia and all those that partnered with us to get this done. It was a long haul. This is 26 acres. We preserved 13 of them out of respect for the fragile infrastructure here on the island. But I think this shows how it can be done. You can do multifamily housing on an island that has fragile infrastructure if you do it right. And I think we try to be very good stewards of this wonderful land and this beautiful island that we live on. So we're very, very proud to have this done, and we think we've done it right. So thank you all for being here. And my friend, Senator's here.
That's great. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. It's so good to be back at this project. I think I visited here, like a half dozen times through all of its iterations. Governor, thank you for being back on Martha's Vineyard yet again. Governor Healey has shown up on this island, has shown up across the Cape Islands district, and not just in beautiful summer days, really being just a critical partner for us in sinking our teeth into the very steep challenges that we face on this very special island and across this region. And no challenge is greater and steeper and more urgent for islanders and Cape Codders than housing. Housing crisis across my district. Housing's been a crisis for over 20 years, since I was in middle school, since Thomas was probably in preschool. But in COVID-19 and its aftermath, it just has put housing costs and housing prices up on steroids. And we're now in a situation where islanders of my generation just can't really hope of ever being able to afford to have a home, to own a home here, unless they're going to inherit one from a family member. And so what communities, the 6 towns across this island and the communities across Cape Cod and the islands are going to have to figure out when it comes to housing is among the steepest crises we face. And Governor Healey and her administration have worked hand in glove with us, putting on the table this idea, this concept of having a seasonal communities designation, which the governor included from day one in the bill that she filed in the Affordable Homes Act, working with us to preserve that in the bill that became law. This is arguably sort of the biggest thing we've been able to do for the region since wastewater, and you really can't have housing without wastewater. So just really deeply grateful to the governor and her administration for really sinking their teeth into this challenge and not letting up. The Affordable Homes Act does lots of really good things, but we have a whole host of challenges that remain. I'm really honored to have been appointed by the Senate President to chair the Joint Committee on Housing this session. So we are working furiously on that. In fact, she's taken this great roadmap the administration put together on Unlocking Housing Production Commission, trying to figure out how can we build more modular housing right here in Massachusetts to make more of these projects happen. So we're just really going to keep on this. I want to thank the governor for her support of a local option transfer fee, which islanders have been clamoring for years. I want to thank Mass General Brigham for supporting this as well and lending their voice in this statewide effort. So it's a good day to be here. I don't know if we're gonna be able to be back here for the ribbon cutting. We're gonna try to make it. It's also so good to see Navigator Homes realized and to have a state-of-the-art, small-scale, skilled nursing facility that's gonna really honor the community and dignity of this place. So I'm gonna now turn it over to Representative Thomas Moakley. Thomas is, what is this, month 6 in the job. He has hit the ground running. He's done so well. And he's already a great partner. And so I'm just really delighted to be with him today and turn it over to Thomas. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sear. Senator Sear has been a leader on housing, not just on Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and Cape Cod, but across the state. And this legislative session is chairing the Joint Committee on Housing, along with Representative Richard Haggerty of Woburn, and is going to continue to do amazing work. And I want to thank the governor for showing up time and time again, both literally and figuratively, for Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and putting housing, which our communities are really at the tip of the spear for, at the center of her agenda from day one of the Healey-Driscoll administration. And our region, along with the whole state, has really benefited from the Affordable Homes Act, from the state-owned parcel thing, from so many of the other policies that they have championed and that they're going to continue to champion going forward. This project is such a wonderful collaboration of different levels of government, of different community organizations, of local services, all coming together to make this happen. This is a partnership not only with MGB and the Martha's Vineyard Hospital, but also the Land Bank with a conservation aspect, obviously the supportive employee housing, and then Navigator Homes together with Healthy Aging Martha's Vineyard, the USDA, and Senator Markey coming in last year as well with critical funding. And I also want to thank Speaker Mariano and my colleagues in the legislature for supporting additional funding for the Navigator Homes project as well. Budget's not final yet, but you know, it just goes to show that the Commonwealth cares about older adults being able to age in their own communities, and especially in an isolated community like this, not being forced to move off island, away from their homes, away from their families. And the partnership with MGB and this supportive employee housing made that happen. So thank you, Governor, for your leadership across the board. Very excited to partner with you in your future work moving forward, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much. Target and go after people who, by all accounts, not all, but many, have no criminal record, are hardworking people who are paying taxes, contributing to our economy. Many are on a path to citizenship. They're in process, green card holders, visa holders, and others who have been doing what they needed to do in terms of following the federal law for citizenship application, and just have had the rug ripped out from under them by President Trump and the administration. And it's been incredibly disruptive to communities, not just in Massachusetts, but around the country. So disruptive to so many families, and it's heartbreaking. When I think of the kids, I think about the kids on Martha's Vineyard. 30% of the kids in public school here speak Portuguese. And, I know the population, I know what the population contributes to, the immigrant population contributes to Martha's Vineyard and Massachusetts, and always has. So I would like to see ICE focus on the bad guys, focus on criminals, and for those who are living their lives and contributing to the economy and doing everything right, what I would like to see is President Trump and Congress work to get people on a path to citizenship.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had one other question about that. Is there a reason you believe that we can anticipate if ICE will make a return to the island?
I don't know. They're not giving us any information. I don't know. And that's part of the frustration that I have, because, as a matter of public safety, we'd like to know what's actually going on in our communities, and we'd like to know when law enforcement is coming in so that it can be organized. And you see what's happening out in LA right now. Things don't need to go that way. They can be done in an orderly way, an appropriate way. And I've said before, Massachusetts, we are not a sanctuary state. In fact, if you're in the custody of the Department of Corrections, our state DOC, and you have an immigration detainer, DOC continues to, and always will, notify ICE. So we do work with and cooperate with ICE. So this idea that we don't, or that Massachusetts is somehow flouting the law is just completely inaccurate and false. And so, to me, it gets back to focusing on what I think there is agreement around, which is, people who are committing crimes and are a threat to public safety. Sure, that's one thing. I support addressing that and arresting people. People are subject to arrest and removal. But for others, I've just seen story after story of hardworking people who were taken away from their families, taken away from their kids, taken away from their coworkers, taken away from their neighbors who they've lived alongside and worked alongside for years and years, and that's just not right.
Okay. Thank you everyone.
I have one question. Have you seen the inside of the holding facility at this point?
No, state official, members of Congress are allowed to tour, state officials are not.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much everyone.
Okay.